Alright, hello everybody. This is Daniel Hoglar with Organic EDU Media. This lesson is going to be pretty boring. It's part of the substance abuse course. It's going to be federal laws pertaining to substance abuse, or federal substance abuse laws. Alright, so let's get into it. So, the Controlled Substance Abuse Act of 1970. So, this is the CSA. It's the primary federal law regulating the manufacturing, importation, possession, use, and distribution of a certain substances. Okay, drug scheduling. The Act classifies drugs into 5 schedules, 1 through 5, based on their potential for abuse, accepted medical use, and safety. So, a schedule... Is it 1 through 4 or 1 through 5? Wow, I don't know my Roman numerals. Wow. Wow. Let's check. Okay. It is 5. Okay. So Schedule 1 is going to be substances with a high potential for abuse and no accepted medical use, like heroin or LSD or marijuana. Now, whether or not... Now, there's a lot of debate around these two, or these kinds of drugs, especially marijuana. Not so much heroin or LSD. When it comes to, legalization, taking them off as a Schedule 1 substance. But that has not happened yet federally. So, Schedule 2, even for places like Colorado, it's still technically federally illegal. Marijuana is. So Schedule 2 are substances with high potential for abuse, but with accepted medical uses, like cocaine, methamphetamine, and opioids. Okay? Hold on one second. Okay. So, Schedule 3 to 5 is going to be substances with decreasing potential for abuse and increasing accepted medical uses. They're probably going to be like, not sure, your antibiotics and such. Decreasing, so antibiotics, right? You're not going to abuse antibiotics, but you might, but they have a really good medical use, so that could be potentially an example. So, Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act. So the overview is this act consolidated all previous drug laws and established the Drug Enforcement Administration, or the DEA, to enforce the Controlled Substances Regulations. Enforcement. It provides the legal framework for the regulation of narcotics and other controlled substances, including penalties for drug trafficking, manufacturing, and distribution. So if you are trafficking drugs, manufacturing drugs, or distributing drugs, the DEA is going to come after you. That's what this law was designed to do. Drug Abuse Act of 1986 and 1988. So the 1986 Act increased the penalties for drug trafficking and established mandatory minimum sentencing for certain drug offenses. The 1988 Act introduced further penalties, including the death penalty for drug-related murders, and emphasized drug-free workplaces at schools and workplaces. Oh, drug-free workplaces and schools. Sorry. It also led to the creation of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, or the ONDCP. Let me see what the ONDCP actually is. The ONDCP. It's the Office of National Drug Control Policy. And what they do is they appoint a drug czar, that's how it's colloquially known. It's first established by Richard Nixon in 1971. Or no, it's 1988. Oh, that term was first used by Richard Nixon. Gotcha. The president regarding. Okay, so it's organization, management, budgeting, and personnel of federal agencies that affects U.S. anti-drug efforts and regarding federal agency compliance with their obligations under national drug control safety. So that is what the ONDCP does. Moving on, so we get the Drug Free Schools and Communities Act of 1986. So the overview is that it aimed at creating drug-free educational environments, providing federal funding to schools for drug prevention programs. Requirements. Schools must implement programs to prevent drug use and distribute information about the dangers of drug abuse. So when I was a kid, it was DARE. It was an acronym. DARE. It was I don't remember what it stood for, but yeah, that was the people who would come to my elementary school maybe once or twice a month and give us the rundown on how drugs are bad. And a lot of these drugs are bad, you know. But we're not going to get into the political aspect of which drugs should be decriminalized and which drugs should not. Not in this video. In this video, all drugs are bad, okay? All drugs are bad, okay. So, requirements, we already went over that. There we go. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Okay, it's an agency within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the HHS. It's responsible for improving the quality and availability of substance abuse prevention, addiction treatment, and mental health services. Programs and grants provide funding and support for various programs and initiatives aimed at preventing the treatment and treating substance abuse. Hold up. A lot of throat clearing today. I'm sure y'all don't want to hear that. So the Controlled Substance Import and Export Act. So this regulates the importation and exportation of controlled substances. So the requirements Alright, sorry about that. My voice is getting pretty raspy. So the requirements are that you ensure that only registered and authorized entities can import or export controlled substances. So this would be like medical manufacturers and, you know, government regulatory or government licensed agencies or corporations. And it is under strict regulations. Okay? And these regulations are laws and kind of like the hoops these companies have to go through to make sure that everything's in line with the law and they're not violating any laws. Because if they do, it's going to cause problems. That's the philosophy behind it. If these regulations aren't in place, then these dangerous controlled substances, these drugs, are not secure, and there's potential for them to get out into the population, which we don't want. We do not want that. Okay, the Combat Methamphetamine Epidemic Act. So it's aimed at combating the illegal production and distribution of methamphetamine. Okay, the Combat Methamphetamine Epidemic Act. Okay, and this was in 2005. This was released. So this is generally new, and it's aimed at combating the illegal production and distribution of methamphetamine. Restrictions. It imposes limits on the sale of over-the-counter medications containing pseudoephedrine, and phenylpropanolamine, which are used to manufacture methamphetamine. Awkward. Okay. So, What this act does combats the production and distribution by making the chemicals you use to produce it more regulated, okay? Meaning people can't just go out and get these products over the counter and then go use them to make an illegal substance or a drug, and with a dangerous drug, let alone, and start distributing to the population, potentially getting them addicted onto this dangerous drug. So that is what this act is designed to do. So Support for Patients and Communities Act, a comprehensive law aimed at addressing the opioid crisis in the United States. Okay, I think this is probably a newer one as well. Support for Patients and Communities Act. Okay, it was enacted in 2018. Okay, awesome. So it's a comprehensive law aimed at addressing the opioid crisis in the United States. Includes measures for expanding access to addiction treatment, improving prescription drug monitoring programs, PDMPs, prescription drug monitoring programs, and increasing support for recovery and prevention programs. The Affordable Care Act. Okay, this was under, I think around like 2014, 2012, sometime around that. Okay, the overview is it includes provisions to expand the coverage for substance use disorder. Okay, treatments for that. So the Affordable Care Act included provisions to expand coverage for substance abuse disorder, or SUD. Okay, insurance coverage requires most health insurance plans to cover SUD. And SUD treatment is an essential health benefit, which I highly agree with that. Family and Medical Leave Act. So this provides eligible employees with unpaid job protective leave for specific family and medical reasons, including the treatment of substance use disorders. Eligibility ensures that individuals can take time off for treatment without risking their employment. Okay, I'm not sure why I put eligibility there. That's not really the proper word, but oh well, moving on. So the drug enforcement agencies. So we've talked about the first one, the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration. It enforces the controlled substances laws and regulations and works to reduce the availability of illicit, illegal, or street drugs. Office of National Drug Control Policy, the ONDCP. It coordinates federal drug control activities and strategies to combat drug abuse. Okay, so the ONDCP coordinates federal drug control activities and strategies to combat drug abuse. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration provides funding, resources, and support for substance abuse prevention and treatment programs. These federal laws and regulations work together to address various aspects of substance abuse, from preventing illegal drug trafficking and ensuring proper use of prescription medications to providing treatment and support for individuals struggling with addiction. Okay, so that's what these agencies, that's what these institutions are designed to do. Okay, they're designed to, one, protect you from illegal and dangerous street drugs. Two, they're designed to keep the peace and, go after people who are, spreading these dangerous drugs and getting people dangerously addicted. And they provide funding for you and your family and everybody else you know or would know. So if you happen to come down with a substance abuse disorder, an SUD, that the proper funding and safety nets and institutions are there to catch you and help you recover and rehabilitate you and get you off drugs. Okay, so the amalgamation of these things are designed to protect, combat, and treat. Okay, protect you, combat illegal drugs, and treat you if you need it. And there we go. That's the end. Cool. Wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be, so Y'all have a good day. Hope y'all learned something from this.